In this guide, I'm going to show you how you can solve the modules problem from the issues description. I'm going to be using this example issue, and I'm not going to show you how to solve this modules problem exactly, but I'm rather going to show you how you can efficiently start working on fixing this problem with all the necessary tools in hand. So let's begin. So basically this module, in our case it's an necessary parenthesis check, does something about it. It can't mark these 4 lines as the violations, although it should. As you can see, it says that all 4 assignments should trigger this check, but when we run this component CLI, it detects nothing. So this is what we experience as the false negative when there should be a violation, but we are not receiving it. Okay, so at this moment, we know that there's something inside the necessary parenthesis check that is not working properly, but we don't really know how to get inside of this check in real time so we can reproduce this problem piece by piece and figure the problem out. So one way that we encourage you to do in order to get inside this check is by test-driven development, which is basically where you create a test before the implementation itself, and then you develop the implementation with respect to the results of the test. So let me show you more in detail. So we open the IDE and let's create a test. So the tests are located inside the source, test, and Java folder. And let's just follow our checks path. We can see the checks path at the bottom of it, the checks documentation always. So in my case, it's checks coding. Okay, so checks coding. I just look for name over check. So necessary parentheses. Okay, so this is the file that contains all of the tests for this module, our check, that tests this check for all of its possible functionality to reveal any possible problems. So you can see we have a lot of methods, and each method represents a distinct test. So let me show you one, for example. So let's take this test. So usually the tests have this common structure. It consists of 3 essential parts. The first part is the input file, which is just like the file that is being tested by this test. And the input files are located in the same test directory, but not in Java folder, but in either of these 2 resources folder. So they're usually in resources, but sometimes the input file can only be compiled by the JDK with a version above the 17. So at this moment, our Checkstyle uses JDK 17 as the main version, and some files they have to be tested for JDK above 17, and they don't really work in a usual resources folder. So we just move them to resources not compilable. But in our case, it's for just the resources. And yeah, so let's open it. You just follow our checks path again. And let's find our input folder for a check. So necessary parentheses. And we can see all of the input files for our check. So for, let's say this one is 15, let's open it. And this is how the input file look, and basically manifest the so-called behavior-driven development, or BDD. It's the concept of showing the files, basically of showing the file state before, during, and after the execution by simulating its results to make it easier for us to know what's going on. So let me show you more in detail. So the first part is the before basically state, which is the config. That just shows how the module is being set up to run on this file, so the config. The next part is the during the execution, which just is the source code. That is just the code that is being tested. And the final part is basically the after execution that shows what happened, that simulates what happens after the test. So it's basically these violation comments that shows that which lines should be the violations. We just mark them with these violation and message comments. Okay, so this is the input structure, and it allows us to proceed to the next part, which is the expected string array, which basically just contains of the violation messages that we expect this test to give. So basically that this test should give, although it's not guaranteed, but we expect it that way. So we can say the first is just the violation lines. So for this test, 22 28s and 159. So we can see there are two violations at 28 and 159. But we can see how convenient it is by just letting us access this comment. Then comes the column numbers, which is pretty uh, tricky, but they show at which column exactly the violation occurs. And then it's just the rest of the violation message that is generated by this method, and the message codes as the arguments and something else. And yeah, that's the expected string array. And the final part is the verify method. It basically takes this expected string array in the input file and gets the actual violation messages and then compares them to the expected. And if there's some inconsistency and they're not the same, then the test fails. And yeah, it gives us the error to show what exactly is wrong. Okay, now that we know the structure of the test, it's time to create an own, which is what we're going to do in the next video part.